Okay, so let's talk about AI coding, and particularly with Cursor. Okay, so with the existing project, it's about helping Owen summarize his calls, his Zoom calls for his coaching clients. And in particular, right now, the first small sub-project is taking a finished Zoom call. And then as soon as the recording and the transcript is done, creating some video ideas for YouTube with ChatGPT, kind of based on the content of the call, and then sending it to him on WhatsApp or Telegram. And yes.
I will just to repeat just so I get it. It's a tool that whenever Owen has just a Zoom call or Zoom recording, it'll have some sort of summary transcription, send it to ChatGPT, and it'll come up with some events or like some story ideas to do some content off of.
Exactly. So an example of the output, this message here, if a storytelling video with some main insight, I don't know, taking intentional time away from work and spark powerful clarity, emotional hook, angle, memorable quotes, moments, and then suggested YouTube titles. It's kind of the first video idea, and then a second video idea for a tutorial video. How to turn overwhelming long training sessions into bite-sized effective content that clients actually use and revisit, right matters, steps to solve it, and suggested titles. So we want that kind of output from the transcript of a Zoom recording. Now, how I approach this, because I want to leverage the capabilities of AI as much as possible, and usually AI stuff works best if it has a lot of context, if it knows exactly what you want to do. So the first step is loading all that context into the system. And for that, I started generating a project request. So a top-level description of the actual project. For this, I was using this guy who created a bunch of prompts. And I just kind of like them. I just used them. Starting with this one. Let's just take this whole thing, and then I have, which just kind of talks you through a web app idea I like to develop. Here's like a concept. And it asks to create like a request in a particular format. And then it also asks to, ask follow-up questions about everything that needs more details, suggest features, help me organize requirements logically, and so on. So just copy this whole thing. And then I took that and pasted it into ChatGPT. And I think it's this chat. Let's see. Yeah, so I was discussing kind of some ideas here already with it. And then I mentioned at some point. Anyways, what I would do is a new chat, paste the whole thing here, and then have the idea here, and let's just use your idea or something that you're having right now. Yeah. Do you have an idea, or I can also use a different idea if you want?
One idea that I want to use is to make a chat ingestion for the IC, kind of like what Fin is, but I think Fin was built before a lot of the next generation ChatGPT stuff came out. Yeah.
Okay, and then we use the O3 model, which is the most powerful thinking model and really good for kind of creating plans and asking questions and so on, doing online research. I'll select that here.
I've been defaulting to 04, but that's just because I don't really know the
So
difference on what.
4.0 is like good for quick chatting. And then 03, the name is a bit weird. 03 is
Yeah.
for like reasoning and it's doing more thinking and helping you kind of rough.
They
Perhaps some.
certainly do not ask ChatGPT to help name itself because it probably can come up with a way better idea than whatever marketer is doing this.
Yeah, that's horrible. Okay, so project name, description, target audience. This is always super helpful, kind of just figuring out a bit better what the actual target audience is. Assigned features, and we'll just kind of go through all of this, see if this kind of agrees with what you are imagining it to be. And then you can kind of fine tune it. So, it's asking me a bunch of follow-up questions here and kind of go through those and maybe just figuring out the primary goal here. What do you think is that?
You want me to to tell you based on what I'm reading here, or
yeah, what's the killer feature? Like, is it search? Is it kind of detecting patterns? Let's say maybe detecting patterns.
yeah, there are a lot of ideas that get constantly repeated and forgotten. Like, what are some good texts to send somebody in these general situations or these specific situations? Or what are some good story replies for these general situations? But they're put all across the Discord, and there's no centralized place to get all that data. That would have been good for me to record and then put it straight into the prompt. But sure, that works.
Yeah, so using the voice feature here is also super helpful. It's just talk into stream of consciousness. And then kind of go through this, and then let's say I also spotted something about GDPR. Yeah, and I'm like, that's and so on. Send this. And it gives you an updated plan. And then you repeat this step of kind of going through this plan, fleshing it out, what exactly you have in mind. And then as soon as you're done with that, you copy the whole thing. Copy that. And then I usually put it into a request document in here. Can be like a normal markdown document. I was playing with these cursor rules. It's like files it could automatically attach to context and so on. The feature's a little bit buggy, so no, I'm so happy with that.
I see cursor and pulse. What's pulse here?
That's just the name of that project.
Oh, okay.
A new project. Put into a file. Voila. Then I often switch to the built-in chat here, which is basically the same as ChatGPT, to do the next step, which is spec, the technical spec. So we take this big picture idea that we're having now, request, and then get like a detailed technical specification. So it has elements like core system architecture, workflows, project structure, database schemas, server actions. And you can adjust that to the type of project that you have. If you have a web app, you may want all this web stuff and database stuff. If you have something else, so just adjust it to that. And we maybe also want some project rules, what frameworks to use, and so on. That's
Why would you do this
API.
in question here? Why would you use this in Cursor and not continue to use ChatGPT?
You can also do it in ChatGPT. I like doing it in Cursor because in Cursor it's a bit easier to use an existing document and then work on it, iterate it, and edit specific items I can show in a second. So set a request and then add, you can reference files.
Okay, this is why.
Yes, we reference this file now. Start a template is you could put some file structure template in here, maybe like a GitHub repo or whatever. Just gonna do this. And then I'm gonna tell it to write this spec. Then we have the model selector here. You can use different models. You could also use all three here. The problem is all three is it's quite expensive. So if you use it within Cursor, you have to pay for it per request. I'm not gonna use it here. Gemini 2.5 Pro is kind of the second next best model after O3 right now. I'm really happy with it. So we are just gonna use this and send it off. Let's do some thinking.
That's the question while it's generating.
Say again.
Like that's the question while it's generating.
So this is just some thinking that it's generating. It's like a planning. The whole thinking. The whole thinking models, what they do is before they can give you like a final answer, they have some internal thought. And so they kind of just iterate a little bit what you gave them before they give you some final result.
So is the reason why you would also do it in Cursor like this is so you can build like the technical documents that is the app itself while you're like building the features on the top of it. So like, oh, here's the initial thing, you build a feature, you want to update how this document, what the project actually is.
Yeah, so yeah, kind of. So the thing is now, as soon as you go into like the particular implementation of small functions and features, it's always good if the system knows kind of the big picture structure behind it. Plus, it can also keep track of where it could be. So we're gonna have a kind of to-do file later where we just lay out step by step what are the individual things that it has to do, and then it can also keep track in that file what's already done and what should be done next.
And is this for like if you have this checklist, is it trying to do more than one at a time, or just do we're gonna do this big checklist and
you usually just try to go through it one by one. So for example, we're gonna create the spec now. Look something like this. And then out of that I created a plan which has step 1, create like project organization, step 2, test settings. Step 3, set up this settings configuration. with like all the files it needs to touch, what the task is, maybe some user instructions, what the user has to do before, and then it can mark all these as done as soon as it's done with it. And then you just tell it, in a perfect world where it's just able to do everything on its own, you can just tell it, okay, now go through this list step by step, do everything. Test, make sure everything works. As soon as you're done, mark it as done, give a little summary, and then move on to the next step. Just kind of run some endless loop. Now let's see what happens here. So generator. You now put it spec. Okay, so technical spec. Okay, and again, be reading through this. And now I may be seeing that the project structure. If I don't like it, it's a bit too complicated. So I can mark all this, add it to the chat, and then I'll just tell it, okay, please simplify project structure. That hierarchy at the beginning, and only build it and the good thing is with cursor, you can very easily just work on small subsets of the whole document and also see what it's changing. And I'll see that in a second. I mean, this is all super complicated just because in the original request,
Super broad.
It's just, it's so much, right? I would, if I would do some proper project and architecting, I would keep this way shorter and just kind of focus on some minimum product first, minimum feature scope, and then build it out bit by bit. This is also why this is so fucking long now. But it has, the database structure and everything in here. Now it's still generating.
So you don't want all this product structure because it's too much in here? Is that did I get you right?
I mean, yeah, so the idea here was just, okay, this is way too complicated. I want to have it simpler. So I'm just telling it, simplify everything. And then it also, you can see it, what it generates here. It's like, see it more. But anyways, it just changed this bit. So we see it deleted all of the red stuff and added the green stuff. And then you can say, okay, I like these changes, except it's better. It's a bit simpler. So with cursor, you can easily iterate on documents, code documents, text documents. So now, next step would be now to take the planner prompt, put all the project requests, the rules, specifications, spec, which is broad, and so on, put it here. And it creates like this step-by-step structure. I'm not going to do this now. I'll get the idea. We'll create something like this. And now, maybe here. And in my project now, I like the whole Zoom call to YouTube video summary thing. I'm at a state where I wanted to add some sort of admin notification interface so that every time there's like an error happening in my code, something I haven't really taken care of yet, I want that to be sent to my Telegram account so that I can see every time something's going wrong. And I also wanted to send me a copy of all the outputs it generates, just so I have a feeling for the quality of the output is good enough. Now I already created some code for that, but it's not working properly. So I want to write some tests now first for that feature. And that's just kind of what I'm doing here right now. Unit tests for the sure. So, log files like the logging library I'm using. Give me a strategy overview of this first. Options. Code, yeah. And then you can also have some files here again. So for example, the file. And then you can also add libraries in here. So add the docs, you can access different libraries that are just in a system.
In cursor system, right?
In cursor system, but you can also add your own stuff. You just paste a URL here to some docs pages, and then it scrapes the whole thing and makes it accessible too. It's also super helpful.
That's super fucking powerful.
Yeah, this one is really good. Cursor, the nice thing about Cursor is all these convenient features about kind of pulling context from different sources. So you can also access just certain functions in here. You can have Git, so different Git commits, what was being changed in them. Can have summaries of past chats, so kind of different ones. And so all the different chats I'm having, I just reference them here now. Cursor rules, these are files which just kind of exist in the background. And one setup I'm having here, for example, is that I'm having this memory file, which contains a bit of a description of the purpose. So this file serves as a dynamic long-term memory for the AI assistant. It stores insights about the user's coding style preferences, common project structures, and overall project goals. And it describes a little bit the format, how to use it. And then here is a collection of things. So for example, if config loading validates required settings, exits on failure, then downstream code can assume that the settings actually exist. Like you don't need to check every time if the setting exists. Or prefer relative imports for imports within the package. Or strict test-driven development, right? Failing tests first, skips, that kind of stuff. There's like lessons that while developing code, like the AI was doing something I didn't like, I wanted to do it differently.
And you maintain
that.
that yourself, right? You don't say like chat
No, I mean,
cursor.
this is all, I'm not, this is not the level of English that I'm writing. So what I did when I'm doing is like, we worked through something and then I'm telling it, okay, can you please save this lesson about test-driven development into the memory database?
Perfect.
And then it edits this file itself. And all this stuff up here tells it how to edit it.
Could you, and I guess you could extend this to have it running from, because I know because you can run commands, you can probably extend this to have like this external memory. And then you can represent all your projects if you have like multi-projects stuff that you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, this file I will copy this to future projects, probably clean it up a little bit, but I'm just gonna copy it over. Plus, this whole stuff, I did not write this myself. Again, I used AI to write me this document. I told it, okay, I want this kind of thing. This should happen. Give some detail about purpose, format, and how to use it, and then created this file.
Makes sense. I'm also looking at how, like, what your MDC files are and how they're structured. Because I'm not using it at all.
MDC is just Markdown. It's like this cursor rule, like it's Markdown cursor. So I think that's what MDC stands for. But it's just a text file, and they put some interface over it. Here you can say, so for example, this file, it will always be attached to every chat I'm having. So this is always in the background. Don't need to mention it explicitly. But you can change that behavior. But I don't know, to be honest, this is still a little bit buggy at the whole interface. I'm hoping they're cleaning this up in the future. But it's like, yeah, this whole cursor rules.
Okay, so that's what MVC files are in memory. I'm just trying to figure out how I would structure the MVC, what goes where, what files are reused, because I see like you have plan MVC requests spec to do memory. Like, what is the kind of the difference between all these
So I mean,
files?
these are containing all the infos about the projects, or the spec, the request, and the plan that we wrote. This is kind of small stuff. And then I was also playing around with like a more complicated system where I would have basically each of these individual items in like its own file, including some, it's like a rule, use descriptive variable names that include auxiliary verbs to clearly express the meaning intent, and it has some examples. So you can make it as complicated, as explicit as you want, but I think I'm moving away from this and just kind of having a simpler format. I think often I think the systems are intelligent but now, so that you don't have to give them examples about stuff, things all the time. And now we can look at our suggestion for the testing strategy. We want to ensure. We'll be reading this now a bit more carefully. Just skimming over it now. And then it gives me different strategies. Mock certain things, write different test cases. Then here, for example, it suggests to test the log processor directly. It's like some kind of hook that hooks into the logging system. That's actually what I want here. So I like that. So I'm just telling it, okay, strategy 2. Check what's in that file right now. That's actually. It's always a good
I
idea
like how you say,
to give different options, or to let it give you different options, because I think like right now we're in a stage where the systems are really good at coming up with things. Like, just give me 10 options or 5 options or whatever, and then you can be the judge, exercise some taste, just use your knowledge as a programmer that you accumulated over the years, and be like, okay, no, this is a bad idea, this is a good idea, let's do this.
I like how you say please all the time. So when ChatGPT gains its own consciousness, you'd be like, ah, I was polite to you. Spare me.
To be honest, I think it's an extension of it's kind of how I'm talking normally. So it's like, yeah, I'm just trying to have as little friction as possible, kind of not switching into some different mode, talking to the machines. And I guess that's where that's coming from.
So you're just naturally polite person. Just trying to say.
Cool, now I created, all this code. Fixtures, tests, all this stuff. We can read here a little summary. And sure, now again, I would be reading this for like a serious project, just kind of getting general sense of what it's doing and so on. Then you can ask it.
So you can tell it to run commands as well.
Yes, please execute. Yes. This file. And I don't want to run the whole test suite now.
So are you running, for every one of these requests that you're running, are you like paying some cents for it?
Very good.
Are you paying for every one of these requests that you're sending out?
No, in the standard cursor subscription, you have like a fixed amount of requests per month. Probably it's, I don't know, I never hit the limit really. And then with Gemini is also quite cheap, so that's fine. So now what happened here is, it ran the tests, and there was some error. Something happened with even looking at this, but it immediately sees the output and after that failures. And it looks at the failure and just proposes fixes. That's the fixes. Can read the fixes. What happened here? Right. Yes. Can accept or reject it individually, just accept the whole file. And then it runs the tests again, and everything passes. There we go. So you have that whole cycle of testing, fixing, testing. Just kind of in itself.
And like a year ago, you would have to write every single one of these characters yourself. Maybe
this
a little bit longer, but like this is like a bunch of lines of code, lots of tests for like 5 minutes on the call since you wrote this in first prompt.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. And I mean, to be honest, I would spend some more time on this, actually reading everything, seeing what it's doing. I kind of also know that I think the code is actually broken, so I'm a bit surprised that everything works. But
I guess you would just tell it, hey, like this function is not supposed to be working, so why are all the tests passing? Do you ever have it explain code, or is it just like a fix it, do actions?
Oh, so the structure of the action tests. Ah, okay. Can we? Should we? Let's probably just missed this because I didn't read the suggestions of the different strategies properly. Correct that now.
You're doing a really good job of like coding and talking and presenting. Most developers that I know in companies can't do that because something just goes wrong.
Yeah, I mean the good thing is I'm actually talking to like I'm talking to the agent, so kind of in that mode already. One thing that's a little bit intransparent with Cursor is what context it pulls in exactly. So, earlier I mentioned the logfire documentation logging library. So I'm hoping that it's still using this now, but I'm not 100% sure. So sometimes it's good to just kind of re-mention these things explicitly. Would have probably been a good idea to do this here. So uploaded a bunch of code. Simplification. We did tests and so on. Okay, that's good. Then phase 2. And depth integration tests. Now, one thing I really want to highlight while working with this kind of more very AI-driven process in the last couple of days, I noticed that it's still really valuable to actually read through everything, try to understand what's happening. I'm not doing this right now just because in the call I don't want to sit here reading everything for 5 or 10 minutes. But getting
I mean,
like a better understanding of what's happening is really helpful. And there's different levels. Like sometimes it's enough if I'm just kind of skimming over it and kind of getting a general gist of what's happening. but I don't need to get into details about, let's say, how exactly the mocks are set up here and so on. Sometimes I don't need to look at it if it's just working and I'm kind of happy enough with it. Sometimes it's not quite doing what I want, and then I'm going a bit deeper. I'm gonna step by step going deeper in understanding into what's actually done here, and then tweak it.
I mean, I think for this example, I get it now. This is just a implementation. There's a bunch of examples that you've already done here. Do you have anything else to share on this? Because right now for me to have any more like response, I would need to like get it under my own fingers and like try out the MVC, try out cursors, getting other context through like Gits or packages or stuff like that. In other words, I can't do any more like theoretical before I like do some
sure.
practical
I mean, right
application.
now we're probably just gonna need to get started. And I don't know what we could do. I have 20 more minutes. What we could do is we can switch and you share your screen, and we kind of do like a very simple setup for a small project. I don't know if 20 minutes are enough for that, but just respond to another time where you're just doing your thing.
You think we should do a completely new project or like a project that I already have going and I would add it in?
Maybe
I
as
can
your
do
own smaller thing. I have a small project suggestion. Like there's a tiny function that cleans up these Zoom transcripts and copies them to your clipboard. Could be something, or if you have some other ideas, something kind of very self-contained, small, to do that.
Let's do your soup translation.
Okay. Then do you have cursor installed already?
Oh, okay. If I'm gonna drive, then might want to do my own.
Sure.
Oh,
Do that.
we'll do your thing. Cool. So I'm going to show my screen. Send request. You have first installed. So what we want to do is go to this, and there is line chain.
No, it's cursor dot sh. What you call?
So I have
cursor.
the cursor. No, I have the cursor
You have
app with
cursor
like
installed.
yeah.
So what's the project we want to do now?
We'll do your soup thing.
The transcript cleanup.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just very simple text process, file processing.
New project folder. I'm making myself.
I think you do open folder. And then you just open new folder, which will be a new project.
Cool.
And then you go into the chat right inside.
ChatGPT.
No, in cursor, what's that cursor? And then let's select for the model, not auto, but Gemini.
Goodbye.
Yes, this one. And then write something like, I want to create a project that takes a VGT video call transcript file, strips unnecessary metadata, and then copies the remaining full text into my clipboard with PB copy.
Should I send
And
it?
then no, stop it.
Yeah,
And then ask it to help me create a very simple outline of the project structure. For that, including a simple test case. And then I don't know, do you know how to program Python?
Yeah.
JavaScript. So
I can do Python.
I suggest we just use Python for now. Use Python and UV single file scripts.
Like that?
Yes.
I'm not sure what UV single file scripts are.
It's UV is a little bit like the JavaScript has like this infrastructure where you can just kind of drop single files into it, and then it installs packages and environments and so on automatically. And UV single file scripts is kind of trying to replicate that. So you have some sort of self-contained file which specifies gives you a project structure. It's good. Now, do you have a Zoom transcript, like a VTT file on hand?
You can get one from Robbie stuff. Is that appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then save that as the sample transcript.txt.
Move it in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What's this doing?
Ah, it's actually okay. It's actually generating. Oh, this is.
Oh, should I have? I can
No,
stop it.
Let it go. Let it go. Let's see what's doing. You could have told it no code yet, but let's just scroll a bit down, see what it's doing. Oh yeah, this is actually perfect. This is exactly what the format is. All right, it's just writing everything. I love it.
Okay, well, that's not so helpful for me because I know how to make it write code like this. It's more like how do you be the architect and do this sort of thing.
I mean, if you scroll up a little bit in the chat, you can see it did the architecture first, right? It was kind of thinking about how to do it, and something you put.
This thing.
I mean, you can ignore the thoughts. You don't need to read them. You can collapse them again. But then, yeah, down here, it's suggesting how to do it, the file structure, create like a README, which probably already contains a bit of used patterns. And one thing you could have added here is just like a no code yet, just telling it to not write code, and maybe something like asking follow-up questions first about things that are unclear. And now ask the For example, it's not using UV right now. Problem, but we can also just use 5, right? Tell it, run the test.
We'll be able to because I can go ahead and put in the credit card now.
And then just take this command 5 unit test.
Oh, did you not see this thing?
No, it's plus that, and you see the last in the output of the chat
Oh,
output.
it's actually, it did it.
Tells you how to run the script one, also run the test. Ah, yeah, now you could tell it, set up the virtual environment and install all required packages when you need it. Just want to get pro. But
It'll take me 2 minutes
get-
to do.
I guess you get the idea. We just created a mini script project with it.
Yeah,
2 minutes.
I guess. Okay, this is cool. I'm glad that we went through the exercise. I think it would be cool in a couple of weeks or so to like exchange notes on the MDC parts, like because that's I'm interested in methods on how to use like memory properly. So you don't have to keep repeating yourself on stuff that you've already like had it do. Do you know what I mean? Because like I'm particular about how I want the code to be because I know if it's like this, then I can diff it better in the future and make sure that I know it's doing the right thing.
I mean, sure, it's probably not just a diffing, but like if you have like a big project and you want to stay maintainable, and you also want to understand the structure, it's gonna be better if it's gonna be written this way or that way. So having, kind of telling it all your different preferences and choices and ways you wanted to do things is really helpful because it also, like, you don't have to re-explain yourself at all. And this memory concept is really helpful for that. But to be honest, I would, advise you to keep it simple and very plain in the beginning. Just have this memory markdown file that the AI is kind of maintaining by itself. You can even in the instructions to that markdown file, you can add something like, if you ever feel like you learned a lesson, or mentioning something twice, just feel free to add it to the memory automatically. And then you just need to make sure that this memory file is always attached to the chat context. You can do that with these cursor rule files. Good to go. You don't need to have some complicated database structure backend. You can just use a text file.
Type in here.
You want to move this file to the directory, create a new directory.
Yeah.
Dot cursor. Make it mk dir once, and then in there, create another directory.
Okay.
Rules. And then move the memory in there. Should be able to suggest it. Can you type?
No, I
Oh,
can't.
Oh, that's a bit bad. It's a bit buggy. But
Really?
this whole cursor rules interface set up.
Okay. Great.
Open it in Vim or Nano. Like that file. And then below that last, yeah, just write some text here. Save that. Reopen that file.
Yeah, bugging Chris's code, but
Yeah, I don't know how they ship this. Like, and it sits there. It works somehow, but it's probably gonna get fixed next couple of days.
cool. Did you send me that prompts file?
Oh yeah, so I can send you my template for the memory, and I can also send you the website with the prompts.
Yes, please send both.
To be honest with the
it'd be-
prompts, what I will do in the future is I will simplify it a little bit because I feel the prompts is a bit over-engineered. And if I simplify it, I can also send you more simplified versions.
Cool. It would be good if you could send a snapshot of your repo, but without like or if you could include it, I'm just gonna strip it out. But the snapshot of your repo that you have with Owen, because I'm curious about just the MDC files.
If you want, I can just add it to the GitHub and then you can take a look.
Perfect. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, Charles.
This has been fun.
Yes, very much.